Shalom, shalom, everybody. Ariel Bar Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, found online at www.KosherTorah.com. In this class, we are continuing in our series of lessons from an old Kabbalistic book called the Ohel Moed. That's all the way down there at the bottom there. It's from a 3-volume set from an old book. Don't know if it's available anymore for those of you who've been asking for the original. This is now lesson 5 in this new series. I call it a new series because we've covered this book before. But let me tell you something about why I'm covering this book now again. Let's take a little walk down history lane, if you will. Memory lane, as they say. Tonight's topic is going to be the topic of Sefirot. Now, the Sefirot, the divine emanations of God, for being simple. And I've been teaching about this stuff for 28 years. I originally wrote my teachings on Sefirot back in 1993 for my Panu Derech journal. How many of you will remember that? Copies of those, I don't even have copies anymore. They've gone through the roof in value. people paying a hefty price for that. I've even seen my book, Call Upon My Name, go for like thousands of dollars. Wow, I'm honored. But anyway, getting back to the point. What I have been teaching for 28 years is readily available in all of my material. My work on Sefirot that I put in Panu Derech, I have republished many a time. You'll find it in Walking in the Fire, and Walking in the Fire itself has been out now for 14 years. Very unappreciated book. Probably a lot of people like it. I'm happy with it. Definitely was the replacement update for Call Upon My Name, but hey, people are going to do what they're going to do. But talking about Sefirot again is, what can I say? What am I going to tell you that you don't already know? Dramatic pause, because I'm going to answer that. Because in this class, which is now lesson number 5 in the new Ohel Moed series, we're going to talk about Sefirot, and I'm going to teach you things about Sefirot that I've not taught you before. Yes, there really is new stuff. And why? Because you have to remember, like in grades in school, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th, etc., there are levels at which people are able to learn. And a commitment that I made this year, I made a commitment to myself, to heaven, call it whatever, that I was going to open the floodgates. I was going to reveal what we call tachlit, as they say in Yiddish, the tachlis, the real essence of things. And why? Many people are actually afraid of me doing this, you should know. One of my closest students sent me a comment this week because he saw something that I'm doing right now. Wait until maybe this time next week. I'm writing something right now, a translation and a commentary from one of the deepest Kabbalistic texts and usages of holy names called the Shorashei HaShemot from Rabbi Moshe Zechuto. Now, it's encyclopedia of holy names, yeah. But some people don't know what to do with holy names. You could say a holy name until you're blue in the face. You can say it all over the place. Nothing's going to happen if you don't know how to do it. Now you will, because I'm going to show people exactly what to do and how to do it. I'm right now in the process of writing the section on the procedure. And this material, in my opinion, is so important that normally this is the type of stuff I release only to our KosherTorah School supporting students. As they know, I release new stuff to them every week that I do not release to the public. So if you're interested in the deeper, newer stuff, then you might want to consider becoming a monthly supporter at the $50 a month or more level. For your gift to me, I'd be willing try to compensate, to give back to you. As I've always said, I am here for you because you are here for me. And just for the record, I get approached a gazillion times. People send me texts, they send me emails, and somehow, sorry, but they think I'm kind of beholden to them. That somehow, some way I got to answer every email I get. Well, so I get hundreds. I just can't do that. I got to prioritize things, right? Like Moshe Rabbeinu, by myself. I'm just a single guy here. I'm the chief cook and bottle washer. No one else can answer this stuff. I have to do it. And frankly, people approach me with some serious stuff that really needs to be addressed, and others just with curiosities. Well, I'm all honored that you're willing to or want to address your curiosities to me, but I can't always respond in what you want. Some people will send me an email, say, hey, can I fully explain to them, all of Judaism? And no, I can't. Don't send me questions of such grandiose nature. But for those who are here for me, I'm there for them. And in that respect, that is who we interact with in our school, student body, just kind of like every other school that's out there. You belong to the school, you get the attention of the school. If you don't, you don't. That's just the way it is. So, yeah, I am honored that you guys approach me, and I thank you for that. And I hope I'll always be able to be here for you. But, like I said, I got to have priorities, just like you do. So please understand that. And if I can't get back to you within the time that you allot me, well, sorry. There's just so much I can do. But with that being said, I take care of my own like my own take care of me. But there are sometimes some things that really got to get out there. So this new material on the Shorash HaShamot, I'm going to publicly release. I want people to see it. I want people to know it. I want people to have access to this knowledge. What they're going to do with it? Well, one of my students says, I'm giving a loaded gun. And, spiritually speaking, you're right, I am. And what are you going to do with it? You're either going to learn how to use it wisely, or you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. One way or another, you will respect it. And that is what, in my opinion, is the most important thing. We come to the study of religion, and especially Kabbalah, and we view it almost like it's entertainment. We have so much entertainment today. Dating myself, I remember when I grew up, we didn't have cable television. We had the 3 major networks and PBS, and no one watched PBS. And prime time was 7:30 to 10:30 at night, and that was it on your 3 networks. And you had very little choice. Well, today, as you all know, we have hundreds of networks, everything from every which source, even the those services which are now feeding, giving the stuff, making their own. Netflix makes their own, Amazon makes their own, YouTube makes their own. You got so much stuff out there. Is it no wonder that people get lost in all of it? When it comes to the study of Torah or Kabbalah, oh my goodness. I try to do web searches. My name doesn't come up in the top 100. You got all these other guys out there. I don't know who they're paying, what they're doing. I don't know the technology in the business. Like I said, I'm an old rabbi, and I don't really care about the rest. God will provide for me. God be willing, I'll provide for you. But with that being said, when we're going to deal with material, I don't want to be like everybody else, being repetitive, kind of like a rerun of the old television programs. You guys remember way back when, in the 60s, the 70s, when I grew up, used to have the new season of programs that would come out and they would run through September through February. And then you'd have all the reruns. And that was it. We didn't have videos and streaming, or that nonsense. None of that. If you missed the show, you didn't get to see it again until the rerun 6 months later. If you missed that, that was it. Well, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be providing for you material that everybody else is, because this book says that and that book says this, etc. So when we talk about Sefirot, I've already taught you. You already know what the 10 Sefirot are. So you don't need me to repeat it to you, and I'm not going to. So this is not going to be a beginner's class in the idea of Sefirot. The good thing about the Ohel Moed, like any other Hebrew or Kabbalistic text, is that you have multiple layers of education, multiple layers of revelation. And in tonight's class, I'm going to talk to you about, like if you see the title of the class, did you ever talk to a Sephira? Yeah? Did it ever talk back? Are the Sefirot alive? Are they individuals? Are they personalities? What exactly are Sefirot? Well, we should have had that question answered 28 years ago. We kind of know. But there's more to it than that. Tonight, we're going to take a walk, as we always do here at the KosherTorah School, on the wild side. And our focus in our school is on the experience of our Torah. We teach what others call the prophetic Kabbalah, the Ma'aseh Merkabah, the personal, real experience of things. And when now I'm going to talk to you about Sefirot, I'm not just going to say, okay, we have the Keter and the Chochmah and the Bina. You know what? If you don't know what your Sefirot are, go to Google. All right? In 5 minutes, you'll learn all about the Sefirot at the boring, entertainment level. And some people, that's all they're interested in. All right? Oh, I know about the Sefirot. Yeah, there are 10 of them. Mazel tov. Good luck. Mazel tov that you know. But what the heck are you talking about? Now, let's discuss the reality of what we're talking about. Why do I emphasize reality? Well, let me tell you something. First of all, you see my shirt over here, over my shoulder here. This is our complimentary gift for those who make $180 donation. And you see it's written with all angelic script. So what? It's a t-shirt. Or is it? Well, you put angelic script. Oh, I don't know. That's sacrilegious. Oh, really? Please. I'm not going to sit and argue halacha with people who don't know halacha, especially some of my rabbinic peers. I wonder what they know when I talk to them. This can become something special if you embrace it to be so. Someone in text is saying here that they're making a golem as we're proceeding in class. I think that's a great idea. Congratulations. And if you succeed, if you could please send your golem to my house once a week. I have house cleaning that needs to be done. The Rabbanit would be very thankful to have someone help her in the house. So good luck with your golem making. I'm going to digress just for a quick story. Years ago, when I lived in Chicago, right, dating way back, and I used to have a friend of mine who was a very rationalist rabbi. Was not very sympathetic to Kabbalah at all, but we were friends. He'd come over to the house, and every now and then he'd bring his kids. And, you know, kids are kids. You know, they're always sniffing around, saying, what do you got in the closet? And I said, oh, that's where I keep my golem. Really? Do you really have a golem in the closet? And, of course, the father would say, don't say that. There's no golem in the closet. I said, well, how do you know? And his kids would always come over, wanting to go into my closet, thinking there's a real golem there. Now, obviously, I'm teasing, okay? But the imagination, the thought, and the wonder, especially for children and adults who need to remember what it is to be childlike, we need to remember that. Because let's talk now about Sefirot for real. What are Sefirot? Do they even exist? That's a good question. The best definition I will give you for Sefirot: natural law. That's it. Natural law. Now, when I use that term natural law, I am not speaking about the 4 basic principles or powers or forces that we understand in modern day physics, the strong and the weak nuclear forces, the electromagnetic, and gravity. Those, I've always found it curious that that numbers in physics always seem to have significance in Kabbalah and Torah. I don't know. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. But I will tell you this. Natural law. What is natural law? For those of you who have either read Walking in the Fire, Call Upon My Name, the Panu Derech, or listened or saw my teachings on Sefirot before, I did a quick summary of what the 10 Sefirot are, and I even posted it as part of the promotion for this class on my Facebook page for those of you who are watching me live. And I have a copy of it right here in my hand, and I'm going to read it to you. You can see it's right there. This is from my old Panu Derech, and I published this over and over and over and over again. So, here are the Sefirot, real simple and short. And then, let's talk about meeting them. How do I meet a natural law? That's the right question to ask. The Creator. I chose not to use the word God. In the original, I put God. I changed that. The Creator. I don't want the concept of the Creator to be personal. Not yet. Reveals an aspect of itself, I chose to say, instead of himself, which is in the original, into creation. You have creator and creation. Just as a side note, when the atheists talk, I think that the faith of atheism is the wildest stretch of imagination more than any other religious faith that I've ever heard. The religion, and yet it is a religious statement, of atheism is that absolutely everything exists for no reason whatsoever, with no purpose, no cause, no structure, no form, no meaning, no nothing. So everything just so happened to contradict the foundation of the laws of nature itself. You know, the law of entropy, right? It's one of the basic laws of reality, that a construct form, a complex construct form, seeks to become simplistic. So nothing, which was of the original simplicity, all of a sudden went the opposite direction and became complex. Guys who are atheists out there, what can I say? Good luck to you. Everybody's got their faith. If that's yours, what can I say? All right. The Creator reveals something of itself. This is the divine will, Keter. An insight, which is Chokhmah, of this will manifest and is perceived, Bina. This expands, Chesed, outward to a point when it starts to contract, Gevura. The result is a state of balance, Tiferet, which ordains the order of the universe. This state of balance order needs to be imposed, Netzach, upon the universe so that a benefit, Hod, of that creation can be received. When this occurs, there is harmony, Yesod, in the universe, and everything is complete, Malchut. There's your 10 Sefirot right there. Natural law. Let's describe this and then teach you how to meet and talk to a Sefirah. The ultimate original origin of things is what we call the divine will. Ra'wa ila'a, in the language of the Zohar, the Retzon Elyon, in the Sefer language they call it the crown. Symbolic, obviously, all these things are symbols. Crown sits on the top of the head. It's not part of the head. It's the seed from which comes everything. Now, this is a very important point that our Kabbalists have taught. Our entire universe is not the first universe to be made. You know, they talk about the Big Bang, right? And everybody says that the Big Bang, came and started from a point and blew up. Well, they said that there was like a parallel universe next to our universe. Our universe was like empty, and then this parallel universe bumped into it. Yeah, you know what I'm getting at. And somehow, this universe became full. Yes, I'm being very blunt. You know what I'm getting at with my little symbolisms there, because that is the secret of the union of Yesod and Malchut, which is Yetzirah universe and Asiya universe, which is said to have impregnated the male universe, impregnated the female universe, symbolically speaking. All we're talking about here is that there is natural law, a pattern, and a process and a purpose. I've mentioned to you in the past the book called Biocentrism by biologist Dr. Robert Lanza. Interesting, very good reading. In which the missing element in the theory of everything is what he calls life. You know what we call life in Kabbalah speak? Or, light. Think about what is light, all right? I have lights all around me. Mazel tov. So what? I turn on the light, I turn off the light, but that's not the or that's being spoken of. The light is the light of consciousness, the light of enlightenment, the light of revelation. But in order to be conscious and have revelation and all, you got to be alive, or what we call alive, an awareness, a sentience. You see, this is one of the profound realities of our existence. There is the original source of things, in which everything comes forth from. Now, we are very emphatic in our Torah faith in saying the singularity of source. That's why, monotheism, God is one, Hear, O Israel, and all the rest. Everything has a singular source. Why is that important? Because we do not believe in a fundamental concept of conflict or chaos. We believe in a fundamental concept of order. And order, foundation of law, natural law, is the ultimate scheme of things in the universe. So modern science might talk all at once about chaos theory and random elements, but bottom line, however much that quantum physics and all the rest want to expand out there, they're eventually going to come back to the ultimate conclusion that the universe in reality kind of does operate like a mechanical machine. Maybe a very complex and intense mechanical machine, but it kind of does. And there is free will involved, and there's random elements involved, and there's chaos involved, and it's all part of the greater whole. And that's the foundation from that little itsy bitsy seed called Keter. From Keter, which is the seed, like a seed germinates, what's the first thing that comes out of the seed? The life, the basic foundation of things. For consciousness, the basic foundation is the revelation of that first concealed thing. We call that revelation of that first concealed thing wisdom or chokhmah. In our human experience, it is the beginning of our experience. Because the concealed, well, what do you know? We don't exist in the concealed. We only exist from the revealed. And that is why, according to the Kabbalah, the Torah begins with the letter Bet, because it's the second light. It is the beginning of revelation. Now remember that the letter Aleph, first letter, is silent. It's the inhale before the exhale. This is all symbolism, but this is important for us to recognize the natural laws of things. So our understanding of this is not religion. It's not philosophy. It's supposed to be science, the science of us. From that primordial or original revelation, which comes from what we would call nowhere. This is what our sages call yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. So the original existence of God in creation, we're not going to talk about beyond creation, is still what we would call ein, or nothing. And here's an interesting midrash. We say that in quote, heaven, the presence of God is not seen even by the angels themselves. Ayemim kom kibado. Where is his place? Because we do not necessarily have a personification of God. So unlike in our midrashic literature and in the stories of other religions, where in which you die, you go to the pearly gates, and there's this big old throne with this big glowing guy sitting on the throne, kind of like you see in the Simpson cartoons. All right. You know, lovely portrayal for silliness in a cartoon, but not the real way it is. But what is that real way? If I had that revelation of that original source, I got to understand it. Understanding Bina. So the ultimate goal, the ultimate source of life is its revelation, its comprehension, which then, instead of receiving from above, like a catcher's mitt, now has to invert and go below to give. So Bina is considered the womb. It receives from Chokhmah, which is why Chokhmah is always called father, and Bina is called mother. In the language of their symbolic union is always very, very sexual in Kabbalah. They speak of the Shvil Dekik, which is, you know what I'm getting at, okay? And this is very important for us to understand, because the nature of Chokhmah and Bina, intuition and intellect, which is our experience, comes to us from the revelation, the revealing, which merges the two, which we call dot, knowledge. And knowledge is that funny word that's used in the Bible for sex, because real knowledge is never external or coming from external in. It arises from inside and enables you to see what's outside. So that's the true nature of knowledge. With that being said, this energy expands out like the growing force of the Big Bang. But eventually, like a breath, it goes out to a point and then contracts within, like a breath. In and out. That's what the Sefirot are telling us are Hesed and Gevurah. And you will know that metaphor, the breath, the divine breath, the cosmic breathing, from other religions which also use this symbol. Okay? Because we look at the patterns of energy that exist in the universe. We are very familiar with the wise words of good old King Solomon, who said there's a time and a purpose for all things under heaven. All right? Read all the signs there in Ohel, Ecclesiastes, what is it, chapter 3. And you look around. You look at society. You can even look day to day. Some will look at this through the eyes of astrology, or you could just look at what we call the sign of the times. There are times when things are going up. There are times when things are going down. There are times when things are good. There are times when things are bad. And it's good or bad for the world, good or bad for sections of the world, or good or bad for individuals in the world. That's just nature. Don't you dare tell me. I won't listen to you if you've ever said, you know, I don't know anything about this. Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. You darn well know you could wake up in the morning and you just know this is going to be a lovely and great day, or really a lousy one. And you know it. You could feel it. That's the Hesed and Gevurah. And it requires balance. The relationship of semblance of balance in the universe. We call that Tiferet, the heart, the balance. And we say this is the source of Torah. The purpose of Torah is to bring alignment and balance. Now, we experience Torah within its context of human application, human wisdom, human morals, and human laws. But it's not enough that you just have balance. because really, you got to apply it. That application is what we call netzach. But why do I need to apply it? Because it brings like good stuff. That good stuff is what we call hod. So that balance, how do I bring it about? I got to get that energy. That's that sexual libido, that creative drive. Yesod. Which then materializes in everything being proper and right. Malchut. There you go. 10 Sefirot. Boom. Done. Now what? These are natural energy forces in the universe. They don't have names. They really don't have personalities, and they are not individuals, and they're not angels. They're nothing. They're forces. Nothing personal about them. In other religious traditions, they're also well aware of the natural forces. Even modern science is understanding of natural forces. Let me tell you something, just to digress, about other systems and their understandings of things. Just this past week, I finished, I don't have time to actually sit and read physical books, but I do listen to the ebooks when I drive. And I just finished listening to Robert Monroe's book. I think it's called Infinite Journey. It's his last book that he wrote before he passed away. Robert Monroe is the founder of the Monroe Institute, which is a secular place for the exploration of consciousness. Very interesting place. They got a lot of good stuff there. They're the creators of HemiSync. For those of you who don't know it, yeah, it's worthwhile checking out. But what Robert Monroe created in his own out-of-body experiences and interactions with the greater realms out there was his own system. And he uses his own set of metaphors. What I found most interesting about his, in quote, set of metaphors, even though he uses very different words than we do, his experiences were the same as those described by the Kabbalists for the centuries gone by. He understood about sources of souls, sparks of souls, and the subjective natures of the afterlife, what we call the lower Garden of Eden, a lot of this stuff. So I listened and I said, oh, this guy, he got it. But what most people won't get is because his language is different, they won't make the association of the essence behind the language to what we teach, and for that matter, what others teach. Now, in my book, The Evolution of God, where I talk about Sefirot and stuff like that, matter of fact, talk about Sefirot is in here too. This is now available, Amazon.com. In case you haven't gotten it, this is the most recent version of all the stuff that I have on the topic. I also put in there my teachings on Torah and yoga. And I discussed all the correlations of stuff. At one time, years and years ago, I spoke about the chakras in the traditional Haredi way, that any and all semblance of foreign cultural expressions should be abandoned and considered forbidden and called idolatry. Well, in the years since I said that, I have, of course, expanded my education to understand the essence of things. And I will make this statement for you. With regards to the differences between essence and forms. I'm going to quote here from the Ohel Moed in just a second. Don't think I've forgotten that. No, I haven't. You have multiple forms. If a person is faithful to a specific path, they have to stay within the context of the forms of that path and not embrace other forms, because multiple application of forms can be confusing, even if the essence in all the forms are identical. It's like having multiple vessels for a single light. Well, you can't have multiple vessels. You have to have one. You can only walk one path truly and fully. If you are doing something that's not yours, in the words of Carl Jung, you're feigning a legacy which is not your own. Psychically, it is not congruent, and it's very not natural. So, are chakras kosher? I don't know if they're kosher, they're Indian. I think if you understand them within their original psychological context, that the essence within them are very similar to what we teach in Torah and psychology. But the application thereof is not a form that those who walk the Torah path should embrace. Again, It's all discussed in here if you're interested. Now, let's go back to the question I asked in the beginning. Sefirot, I want to talk to him. I want to talk to Chokhmah. I want to talk to Bina. I want to talk to Hesed or Gavora Tiferet. Well, how do you talk to something that, I don't know, doesn't really have a personality, doesn't really have an individualization? It's like saying, I want to talk to electromagnetism, or I want to talk to gravity. Can I do that? Dramatic pause for you to think. Because the answer is yes, you can. Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to tell you where you can learn this from. Believe it or not, from the author of the Code of Jewish Law, Rabbi Yosef Karo himself. Rabbi Yosef Karo was a member of our school. Practiced the prophetic meditation, the prophetic Kabbalah, the Maser Merkabah. And when he would go into his trance, he would channel the Mishnah herself. And he would go into the trance, right? I mean, he'd go sitting there and he would like meditate on Mishnayot. That's what his mantras were. And then, he would go off into the trance. And even though it doesn't say in the book, his head would go back, mouth would open, and a female voice would come out of his throat. And the students just sat and wrote, and that's the Magid Misharim. He says, I am the Mishnah, I am the Shekhinah. Well, the Mishnah is a book. The Shekhinah, again, is an energy field. How then did he channel that? Answer, personification. Or to use a psychological term, an archetype. And here is where Sefirot can become personal. But what I'm about to describe, I warn you, it's a loaded gun. You've got to be very, very careful. Because here, the Ohel Moed states like this. Remember the first revelation is Chokhmah? And he states like this about Chokhmah. Ein lachokhmah tzura yidua. That Chokhmah itself doesn't have a tzura, which is like the inner force, right? Which is known. Ki hi notenet tzura, because Chokhmah gives the energy or the form, if you will, lekol bal tzura. It gives the form to all other forms. V'hu ke'inyan ha'chiyuli noseh le'ikut pashtut. He calls it the chiyuli. What is this chiyuli? This is the prima matter that Ramban Nachmani makes a reference of in his Torah commentary. Torah commentary states that in the beginning God created this chiyuli, the prima matter, and then from the chiyuli everything came forth. So God didn't create everything directly, created the chiyuli like an hourglass, right? Everything came down into the chiyuli, and from the chiyuli it came out. Fine. So everything comes from this source. Everything goes back to that source. So when we want to understand anything about this natural world, I'm going to teach you a prophetic technique. Yes, you can interact with electromagnetism, gravity. Scientists, you pay attention to what I'm saying to you right now. Because if you want to explore discoveries from the inner essence of your unconscious, which taps into higher revelations and higher dimensional worlds and planes, this is how you're going to do it. I'm certain this is what Nikola Tesla did. I'm certain this is what Albert Einstein did, each in their own way. But this is the secret. Personification of an archetype. In Kabbalah, we do this all the time. And we apply angels or angelic names to the Sefirot. So, for example, if we want to talk about the Sefirot Chesed, we call upon Hazdeel. If we want to talk about Chokhmah, we talk about Chochmiel. Now, there is no guy out there whose name is Chochmiel, but we archetypally create the form because we can congeal the light of Chokhmah into the vessel thereof. And we can take the light of Hesed and congeal it into the vessel thereof. We can, through the personification, active imagination, using the psychology term. This is an old technique. Even Abu Lafia taught it. He taught it with regards to the use of the name Yud-Keh Vav-Keh. All right? You visualize as if there's somebody standing in front of you who wrote, and you talk to them, just like you're talking to you and us right now. Well, this application can be done with everything. Remember I told you, I don't want to just teach you everything about the Sefirot that we've done before. Yawn, yawn, boring, boring. Here's where you can put it into practice. Here's something new. Because if you really want to understand natural law, then you need to talk to natural law. You need to embrace natural law. Not in some nebulous form, but in a form that you can actually interact with. To try to embrace that which is like expansive and out there, we're very, very small like here. It's too big, right? So we have to be able to tzimtzum, I love that Ariel term, contract everything to a small point that we as individual human beings can grasp. I look at the world around us. Everything is very chaotic. I, for one, don't understand what's going on. I'm sure you don't either, whether you think so or not. What can I do about that? How can I seek insight? If I want to grasp our direct insight into the original source of divine revelation in the universe, well, that's the application of the Sefirah Chokhmah. So how do I talk to Chokhmah? I can't grab it. It's not physical. It's not tangible. It's an energy field. Well, I will imagine that Chokhmah as an energy congeals. You watch enough television and movies, and the imagery will pop up into your head. Okay? Where in which an energy congeals into a form. This is nothing new. They've been putting this in TV for 50 years. Now, imagine, if you will, light congealing, taking the form of a person. And that person is the Sefirah that you wish to interact with. Visualize it. You can visualize it as a male figure, if it's a male Sefer, we call male Sephira, female Sephira, or anything else. Allow your imagination to direct and guide you. And, like Abu Lafia taught with the name Yud Kevavke, enter into dialogue. Because like the text says here, that which we call Chokhmah, which gives life to everything, it doesn't have its own rigid form. It can have any form. And therefore, allow your mind to direct the form that it needs to experience. For Rabbi Yosef Karo, that form was the Shekhinah or the Mishnah. What form will it take for you? That's your choice. So you see here, are Sefirot alive? Well, they're energy. But just because they are energy doesn't mean that you can't reach out and touch it. You're not going to touch the energy directly, just like you're not going to put your hand in the nuclear reactor and try to talk to nuclear energy. That's kind of dumb. But that doesn't mean that nuclear energy doesn't have consciousness, a law. Remember, everything that exists follows the laws of nature. Even nuclear energy, gravity, everything follows its own rules. Where do those rules come from? Well, if there are natural laws, then there must be a natural law giver. So, something in the subatomic structure of a neutron makes it know that it's neutral. And something in that subatomic structure of the proton makes it know that it's, in quote, positive. And the electron, negative. And all of these combine to form whatever forms of energy that there are. And as such, and by the way, for those of you who want to correct my physics here, you also know that there are particles at the hyperlight or energy level, tachyons and the like. Not the ones from Star Trek, but the real ones? Well, they're all subject to natural law. And as such, a lawgiver, which is the Keter, is inside them. And as such, there is consciousness to everything. Now, personally, I don't go around speaking to gravity. All right? I don't say, hello, gravity. I'd really like to fly today. So if I jump off the roof of my house, hey, is it okay if I miss the ground and, I just keep flying? Please don't do that crazy stuff. But if you ever want to understand gravity, visualize a personification of it and allow your imagination to interact with it in some type of a dialogue that your inner mind will understand. And you might be very surprised from the unconscious what might pop up from higher dimensions through your unconscious into your conscious mind, giving you revelations and insights about the true nature of gravity. Scientists, pay attention. Same thing with every one of these Sefirot, which again, I am emphasizing their scientific nature as opposed to anything else. When we go into I think it's the original source for the teachings about Sefirot is the Sefer Yetzirah. And the Sefirot of the Sefer Yetzirah, you'll mind you, are not the ones we just talked about. They're not Keter, Chochmah, Bina, and the rest. There's no mention of those names in the Sefer Yetzirah. But they are associated with the concept of numerical values, almost a mathematical context. And these interact with the Hebrew letters, which themselves are archetypes of energy patterns. So in the Sefer Yetzirah, we are taught that everything was created through the 22 Hebrew letters and the 10 Sefirot. The interactions between them all form the Kabbalistic tree of life and the relationship between Sefirot to one another. So, for those of you who are familiar with the diagram of the Sefirot as it's in later Kabbalah, you have those which are horizontal relationships, and then you have those which are vertical relationships, and those which are diagonal relationships. And that's where all the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet interact between these Sefirot. That is an archetype, an imaginative expression of energies. Now, we have a tradition of what corresponds to where. Fine. That is what we receive. How do we know it's true? Where did it come from? That's a good question. Somehow, some human mind experienced the revelation thereof and brought it down to us to this day. We have this ability. And we can take these structures and these forms and seek from them individual revelation and insight. Now, be careful, like I said, when doing this, because once you want to take the abstract and bring it down into construct form, you're playing with fire. In the days of wilderness, Moses went up to heaven and revealed to the nation of Israel an abstract God. The people, not having Moses as a contact to this abstract God, didn't know what to do. If you remember, this was the reason for the sin of the golden calf. The golden calf was not an Egyptian idol. It was a construct form for Yud-Keh Vav-Keh. That's right. That's why it says, this is your God Israel. They didn't say the golden calf was one of the gods of Egypt. No, they understood it. It was actually an astrological form. And they said, this is the God of Israel. And that was the big, in quote, mistake of the intellect. Why? If you remember that, right, that's a pretty big deal. God says, I'm going to wipe out everybody. Moses says, no, don't do that. And God says, okay, I'll let them go. And we have the Torah as we have it today, which is a construct form based upon our need for limitation. That's why we have the form of Torah, which we call Pshat. And we have the original Torah, which is the secrets thereof. It's a more fluid form and a more construct form. You need the two together because of where the human mind exists today in consciousness. So learn a lesson from the golden calf. Okay? A mistake of the intellect, God understood. Tree of knowledge, good and evil, we're all messed up in the head. No one knows intellectually the truth. So it's easy to make a mistake of the intellect. When you make a mistake of the heart with fear and panic, as it was with the 12 spies going out and spying the land, and the people were terrified to take up the land, that's when God says, that's it, I'm done. All right? No, I'm not going to wipe you out. You're going to drop dead. All right? I'll take your kids into the land. Park here for 40 years. All right? You all grow old and die. I'll deal with the kids. All right? I can take you out of Egypt. I can't take Egypt out of you. So that's the difference between an emotional expression and an intellectual one. God recognizes the limits of our intellect. So therefore, learn from this important lesson about the nature of personification of the Sefirot. Again, the danger in this is that individuals will make the mistake of thinking that a Sephirah is an individual, separate, unique expression of the divine, which you can manipulate. And a lot of people try to do that. And the Petach Eliyahu from the Tikkun Zohar warns us, do not make separations. Remember we said in the beginning, everything is a unity, everything's all one? Well, Chokhmah, Bina, Hesed, Gavura, opposite polarities that they are, all operate from the singular source. So, there are people, if you read in Kabbalistic literature, they will follow this type of archetypal expression, materialization, and they will, for example, try to visualize and conjure even a material or imaginative form for, choose, Gavura. Okay? I want to punish my enemies. So I'm going to visualize the energy of Gavura. I'm going to conjure the angel Gavura El, Gavriel. And I'm going to project that energy of the Gavura and zap. Well, have you separated a energy of God from God? Have you tried to take a specific part of the whole out of the whole, and therefore created the act of separation, pirud? That's a no-no. That was the sin of the golden calf. And the Kabbalists warn people not to do this, because if everything is part of the greater whole, and you think you can grab part of the whole and redirect it in your personal direction against the whole? What the heck do you think you're doing? You're going to say to gravity, I understand how gravity works, but I'm going to take this little portion of gravity and twist it around on gravity. We can create anti-gravity. Oh, yes. They've done it for years and years. Don't believe the scientists that tell you they haven't, right? That UFO technology kind of stuff has been around 50, 60 years already, right? We have stuff, third, fourth, fifth generation already, but that's, classified stuff. God be willing, it'll come out soon. So, but that's not going against the law. That's working with the laws. It's kind of like, if like the warp drive kind of concept. You're not breaking the law, you're working with the law. That's these kinds of revelations that come when you contemplate in this structured format that I'm telling you. But don't ever think that you could use this for your own individual or personal gains, like many Kabbalists have tried to do. Now, here's an issue. The concept of Sefirot, as interpreted to be divine expressions or divine manifestations, when it is detached from experience and it's looked at as exclusively an intellectual or philosophical concept, this becomes very, very difficult to explain. God materializes and manifests 10 Sefirot. Are they part of God, or are they part of creation? Sefirot, are they creator or creation? Oh, this opens up a can of worms with all the people who argue this back and forth. And for those who want to interpret Sefirot to be actual, in quote, forms for God, they make the statement, oh, you've created 10 gods then. That's worse than what, Christianity, where you have a Father, Son, Holy Ghost of 3 gods. The Kabbalists created 10. Well, when you misunderstand the Sefirot and think of them as individual expressions of God, which a lot of people do, then yeah, that's another mistake of the intellect. You've just created 10 golden calves. No, don't do that. So again, we're running out of time here. Got a couple minutes left. What am I going to do with Sefirot? Where are we going to go with this? That's up to you to decide. Know this. Sefirot, the language of the Kabbalah, language of the Ariel, right? Later stuff, but good enough here. Remember what we just said here? That the Chokhmah, it gives the form to everything. It's the relationship we call light and a vessel. The light of God comes into everything. And the individual Sefirot, maybe they're kind of like, if you will, light bulbs, colored light bulbs, each with a different color. But the energy, the electricity goes into each one is the same. So therefore, you got to first tap into the electricity, if you will, before you can understand the nature of the individual light bulb and the color of its, in quote, glass that you're looking at. Because there is no red or green or blue or orange or whatever. It's only the color of the glass, the inner energy is the real essence. So, you get to the essence. And the essence, of course, God. And that's why we use the name Yud-Keh Vav-Keh, which is the essence, or the form through which God has been made manifest to us through the Torah. And we take that name, and then we apply it. So, for example, we've taught this in our use of the Merkabah from the Ben Ish Chai tradition. When you contemplate these Sefirot, each Sephirah is the name Yud-Keh Vav-Keh with a specific set of vowels. You go in my works if you want to use that system. That'll help you understand Yud-Keh Vav-Keh in that expression. Or archetype it. Visualize the energy in a structure and a form like Abulafia taught, and have Chazdiel, Gavurael, Teferatel, Natzachel, Hodel, Yesodel, Machutel, etc. And interact. Hey, nice to meet you, Teferatel. Tell me about yourself. And now you're going to say, oh, it's all make-believe, it's all my imagination. Yeah, but remember, your imagination is tapped into higher realms and higher dimensions, and when you open yourself up, you're surprised what comes back in. Got it? This is how you can talk with the Sefirot. And, granted, you're like going to the ocean. And according to some, the ocean itself is alive. So, you're going to take the ocean, or let's just say it's a body of non-salt water, and you're going to take a cup and you're going to drink it. All right, lake water, nice, hopefully nice and clear and pure, fine. All right, and you have a taste of it. You have a flavor of it. This is a process, a technique that we can do. Never taught you this before, but you can do this because this is real. How is it real when you're going into your imagination? Do you really doubt the reality of your own mind? Don't. Are you coming out, sweetie? Oh, is it time? Hi, darling. Hopefully she doesn't knock down the thing here. Sierra just came off the couch. Hi, sweetie. My darling girl. Yes. Come, you want to come up? Come on. Come say hi. Come say hi. It's Sierra's time, right? Remember, we never got her fixed. She's been the mother of many, many of our pups. And it's her time now, if you get my drift. So, yeah, she has special needs at this time. Yes, darling. So, anyway, use your imagination. Don't be a stranger to it. Trust God to guide you and experience the reality of these higher dimensional planes that connect to you. This is not religious, even though religious people have done this since the beginning of time. All the great scientists have done this. All the great artists have done this. This is what Nikola Tesla did, what Einstein did, probably Da Vinci, Newton, and the rest. Take it. Run with it. And see what happens. And I have to come out of the Sefirot world to address my canine daughter. I love when the reality of one world meets with the reality of the other worlds, and you come together. Some people say it's a distraction. There's no such thing as a distraction. Everything works together in that whole. Remember what I said? Don't make distinctions and divisions. Everything exists in the Yehud. And when your mind is in the Yehud, so will your experience be there as well. Just remember that with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, it's all part of a greater whole. Seek the wisdom in that, and you'll understand. Okay, guys. Ariel Bar Tzadok, KosherTorah School, KosherTorah.com. Remember to support our yeshiva. Get a little stuff there. See our emails about that. Good stuff waiting. Good stuff is coming. Check us out online. Thank you again for all of your financial support. Remember, because of you, I can be here for you. All right? Because you're here for me, I'm here for you. And right now, I got to be here for my darling Sierra. Canine kids. And I know a lot of people, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Don't talk to me about it, all right? Because for me, all of nature, they're all our children, right? I talked to the Rabbanit. You should know we want to expand the family. We're talking about kittens. The Rabbanit wants some other stuff, and who knows? We might have some additions to the family in the animal world sooner than later. But we'll see. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you all next time. Kol Tov. Shalom.